This is in City Hall. I'm gonna start that again. Notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act by posting notices in City Hall and sending notices to the Times newspaper and the Trentonian on December 18th, 2023. Okay. I am going to make a motion that we accept the minutes of the March 27th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second? Someone, anyone? Can I get a second to that motion?
This is Lindy. I'll second.
Anybody have any questions, comments, edits, concerns? Look good. If they look good as circulated in the board package, all in favor, say aye. For sure.
Aye.
Aye.
Any no? Any
My
abstention?
vote is a no.
No, you didn't see any issues though, I guess. Just a no?
My vote is a no.
I don't think she attended, so technically it would be an abstention.
Hi, this is Councilwoman Frisbee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You wanna make
Hi,
my votes for me, Michael? I could excuse myself.
No, I think what Michael's saying is typically if you don't attend the meeting, it's an abstention rather than a no vote. A no vote implies you objected to something in the minutes. Do you want to be listed as an abstention or a no?
It's a no.
Okay. Folks would have seen the checklist that was circulated. I'll make a motion that we approve the checks as circulated. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, concerns noted on that?
Yeah, I got a couple. And the stuff we probably already know, but I'm gonna just ask you just to repeat it for me. The first one, Castle Group, office rugs and painting. It says balance. I don't remember them before. What was that for? I don't remember them being on here before. I might have missed it.
That was for the, where we had the water in my office and in the old executive director office. Yeah, we had all the water in there, so we had to rip up the
Right.
rug and repaint it. It's half and half.
I remember that. The $9,000 to Federal Electric. Can you just break that? What is that $9,000 comprise of again? That's the gas and the rental itself. Is that everything?
No, that's not the rental.
Well, just
What is
back,
that?
for folks, just a reminder, this was related to the fact that the vandals that hit the hotel cut the wires for our Lafayette garage. And so we have been dealing with this since March 1st, right? March 1st. Okay, so Allied Federal Electric Corp, I don't know if folks know Joe and James Peoples, a local contractor, has been helping us with that project. And so this, with that, so this is this some of the generator?
No, that's his fee for helping with installing everything and running the electrical for the generator. And he's also putting together all the plans for.
Right.
Yeah,
And if I could offer and respond to Scott's question. This was the cost the electrician incurred to connect the temporary generator back to the garage. So this was the work that was done in early March to temporarily connect it. He's still doing work and there will be additional cost to put the permanent service in the building. But this was associated with just connecting the generator to the building so that you have temporary power. No cost associated with the generator nor the fuel consumed by the generator.
Okay, all right. So there's gonna be another bill for the actual rental and the other stuff associated with it after it's been installed. This is just the install.
It's about $18,000. We just made payment for the
Okay.
month.
That's
For the generator, the installation of the generator and the fuel for the month.
they come and do the fueling. That's included.
So they were starting to do it every day, but what happened was we noticed it came out to about $240 a day, right, Phil? Just to deliver the fuel. And we realized we weren't using that much, so we cut it back to like every other day. So, well, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They only come out now. It's gonna be the same as far as the fuel is concerned, because it's gonna be the same amount, that's needed. But at least it'll cut back on that $250 for the delivery for those other couple of days.
All right, and the last one is now Seal Creek. Is this still the same, related to the same thing as the leak in the walls? Now that they did
Yes.
outside?
Yes.
I didn't know it was going to be two bills. I thought it was all one.
Well, the problem is that they sealed everything outside thinking that that was going to solve it.
Oh, right. That
Okay,
yes, I
that's the
remember.
only reason why there was a different one, because then we wound up getting all the water again.
And
And
right.
needless to say, yeah, so then what they did was they sealed all around the windows that were there, and it did help some, but there's still a little bit of water that's still coming.
Well, a little bit. It's still bad though, isn't it?
It's bad, yeah, it's still bad enough. So they're still looking into it again.
For additional costs or just,
I'm not sure, they didn't say anything yet, they're just still evaluating the situation to see where it could be coming from.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Because notably, there is a basement under there, and the basement is not getting water. Which is kind of a puzzle.
Yeah, because the carpet's sucking it up.
Here, I don't know,
How about our new carpet is sucking it up?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions relative to the checks and expenditures for March? Okay, if not, I'll ask for a vote that we vote in favor. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. I'm an aye.
Aye.
All, Lindy, Sam, are you voting?
Aye.
Okay, any
My
opposed?
vote is a no.
Okay. All right. 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay. The next is the financial reports, the income expense reports by facility. I will make a motion that we accept this report. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Thank you, guys. All right, everybody hopefully had a chance to review it. Any questions, comments, insights?
Yeah.
See the
Definitely.
increase?
So what? Yeah. So what happened?
No, that's the one, that's all the parking that the state had to, move from the lot that they have to do the PSC&G work on it,
Remember
so that
that,
it closed it down from 10 years ago.
yeah, so this is a lot, the surface lot next to the Labor and Industry Building, which is an old coal something, all back from when people heated with coal. My understanding is this is one of the last in the state that hasn't been cleaned up. And this is where they wanted us to open the broad in front garage some years ago when we couldn't do it. But they are moving parkers into 2 of our decks or all of them? 2. So they're going into Lafayette and Liberty, and that's a nice bump for us.
Yes.
And how are we recording them? Are they transients? They're not monthly. They're transients,
Yeah,
right?
they're, okay, we sold the monthly passes, 270 to Lafayette and 100 in Liberty Commons. But it seems like they were only giving out maybe X amount of cards. So the other people that were not qualified for cards yet through the state, they have to go park at Perry Street. So needless to say, now we're also getting the transient people coming in.
They're paying
They're
themselves
paying themselves.
instead of taking the shuttle or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, from Perry Street.
Great. Okay. So and how long will this last, do you think?
At least a year and a half, he said, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think, okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, I'm hoping by the time this is done, the hotel is open somehow, somewhere.
That's a miracle.
I hope so, because we could use the income. If we lose this, we'll feel it that much more. But yeah, it's a good boost for us. Okay, any other
So-
questions?
Oh,
comments?
well, I'm sorry. Can I, so go back. So does that 3, never mind, forget, I don't skip it. Go on. Sorry.
Okay. All right, all in favor of accepting the financial garage report as circulated? Say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed?
One,
Okay. Okay, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. And okay, moving along. We don't have the Phoenix advisory yet. Okay. As you know, we had a April 1st bond payment due. We did pay that as prescribed. It's one of 2 per year bond payments, and Phoenix was the one that, you know, kind of got it all cleared up, made sure we had the funds in place. This income is actually going to ease our stress come October for the next one. Okay. And you hopefully have a chance to take a look at the nonprofit accounting reports, profit and loss, and balance sheet if you don't vote on it. Okay. If there's any questions on that. Okay.
Can you tell me how much the bond payment was?
Pardon me?
How much was the bond payment?
I'm gonna say it was 1.4, I think 1.475, possibly somewhere right around there. I could be off by a little bit.
And that was paid in full?
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty, Lafayette Yard garage update. We covered some of this already. We're very, very happy with the contractor we've got that's working on it. At least Lou had said as much, right? Is there anything else that needs to be added to that discussion, Lou?
Well, maybe just to briefly update the board on the status. So
Yeah.
on or about May 1st, I'm sorry, on or about March 1st, the temporary service was required due to vandalism. I think that service went in on about the 4th or 7th of March and has been in place since. So we're in what that's
It was more like the 15th.
15th. It's been in.
Yeah, something like that, I think it was, yeah.
So it's about 5 weeks in service, and we have a temporary generator rental and the associated fuel costs, which are ongoing. The electrical contractor has met on site with public service. And it turns out public service cannot provide the same power service that we had previously, which is a 480 volt service. Because of the amount of consumption, the garage doesn't draw much. So they're only offering a 208 service, which will require a transformer to be purchased and installed by the parking authority. And so the electrical contractor is working on both acquiring that transformer and the cost of that transformer and installation of same, and then needs to coordinate with public service to bring the new power to the building. And it will be directly into the garage rather than fed through the electrical room in the hotel, which is the current, which was, I should say, the prior service entrance. So just to address costs, so we're waiting for Federal Allied Electric to provide price on the transformer and the installation. And he'll be on site to coordinate with public service, who will provide the new service to the garage. And we don't have a schedule nor a cost yet for that.
And we talked about doing this on the 2nd floor. Is that going forward, or is it going to be elevated some way?
Correct. You're just to address that. The current electrical room is on the 2nd floor of the garage adjacent to the elevators. The proposal is to set the transformer up there with a disconnect. So everything will be central. And yes, to answer your question, it will be provided, the service will be provided through the ground floor up through a conduit to the 2nd floor. And so that's what we're awaiting the proposal from Allied Federal for, the electrician.
And that, folks, just to recall, this actually has not known to flood, but it is in a flood zone, and that's why we were anxious to kind of think forward, be sort of forward looking on that. Okay.
Question?
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah, Scott.
So Lou, how does this, the price, if you have an idea, for transforming this in the new system, how does that differ from what we thought we were going to do before? Is this more expensive option, or not an option?
Well, yes, it is more expensive, in as much as if public service provided the same voltage, the the 480 volt service that's currently there, you would not need a transformer. But under their regulations, you don't consume enough power. A 480 volt service is a lower cost for consumption. And so most owners would opt for that. The reason you no longer qualify is in the beginning, you qualified because the hotel and the garage were on the same service. That's why your service came through the hotels. This is all historic fact that I've been enlightened about. And so now with the new circumstance, it's a standalone service to the garage. You no longer qualify for the 480 volt service, and therefore they'll only provide 208. So the cost for the transformer, unfortunately, is on the owner, being the parking authority. I don't know, there is the Public Board of Utilities to appeal. I've never, gone there, but I know that is an option if we feel, we have some appeal rights.
But
But so is,
oh, sorry, go, Scott.
I'm sorry, so is what I'm trying to say is, so we don't use 480. 208 sounds like it's not.
I've got a 5:30 that I'm on now, 5 o'clock.
Jessica, can you? Jessica? Jessica, can you?
Hello, Joe, how are you? Good.
You might have to do it. She's talking. Can you mute her?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
She's
So
moving.
what I'm trying to understand is the 208 sounds like it's not sufficient, but the 480 is too much. The
Well-
transformer, what does it do? Jack up the voltage?
Right, it'll transform the 408 that they're providing you to the 480 that you need to run your elevators, the lighting, all your systems are based on 480 in the building, because the elevators were, specified to match the power at the time. But now that you're no longer tied to the hotel's consumption, you don't meet the requirements that PSE&G sets for 480 service. And that's why, and you'd have to change your elevators to work off of 208 if you didn't transform the power to match what you have now.
But that's why I'm confused. Excuse me. That's why I'm confused. If we need 480 to run the elevators, how can we not qualify for 480?
They'll say, get a transformer and convert it. We're giving you 208, that's on you. That's, again, I'm not an electrical engineer, so I don't have the intimate knowledge, but I know this is the way. But it's, it's their regulations and it's consumptions and rate setting, and it's a whole host of things that are well beyond my understanding. But the bottom line is, this is what they've said. Now, again, I think we could try and appeal. I don't know what that process is or where we go, but definitely Public Service is the agency we would need to speak further to. And Joe Peoples, the gentleman representing us, through Allied Federal Electrical, has been having those conversations, and I have not had direct. This is all by way of Joe, but I understand, this is not unusual. This happens in many projects when it's specified for service.
So when can we expect the price on that? That's my last question. Sorry.
Well, the other issue is that, so now the transformer has to match the service, so it has to be built. And that's what his dilemma is. He needs to find out who will build it and on what timeline. Public Service as a utility can't tell us who to use or recommend, but they can tell us who the manufacturers are, which Joe has already done. So it's again, a waiting period. It took us a few weeks just to get PS out to look at the temporary, the service that we needed while we were on temporary. And here we are 5-6 weeks in now and still don't have an end in sight.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was either a telephone conversation I was involved in or an email that I read, where Joe had said the one advantage of the generator is that we could really monitor our usage. And in fact, we had more power than we needed. So it seemed that the optimist in me thought maybe that means our bills will just able to be lower. To the extent that you pay for standing power, assuming you're going to use it, even if you don't use it, you've got a standing power rate that's high. So is it reasonable to think we're going to have some savings going forward with this smaller service?
That is, again, I don't know exactly, but I think you're correct, and the consumption's way down. You have LED lights, since 2000, when the building was constructed, you were electrical consumption is lower just based on technology, and the upgrades you've done. So that being said, and not coupled with the hotel, that's really the dilemma that you're faced with. The transformer is not astronomical cost, but it's it's time sensitive. It's going to take a while to sort this out and buy it and produce it and install it. But I don't know that we have any recourse aside from this, bringing it further up into the public service corporate ladder.
All right, this is, while we're on Lafayette Yard at all, this is a little bit of a stray issue that came up, but, I'm on the TDA board, as you guys know, and we have kind of an ad hoc parking committee going. And in the process of that, it was called to my attention that we have this benefit that we offer to business owners downtown, where they can give coupons to their customers to get free parking up to 2 hours, like if somebody came for lunch. And I didn't realize, but that only, for some reason, our coupons specify Liberty Commons only. And so Skillet, for instance, has asked, they're closer to the Lafayette Yard garage, and one of their clients, tried to use the coupon, and it says on it, which I never had seen. I didn't know.
Already talked the best about it.
Yeah, and so we are, I thought I'd throw it out there. I'm assuming that this was something that was set up many, many years ago. And we've just continued it that way. Patrice thought it was related to the fact that the Liberty Commons lot is where the transient parkers predominate in a big way. And so it was just logical to do it there. So I wanted to throw out the possibility of adding the Lafayette Yard garage to that mix. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? And Patrice, you just said that Phil
Lorraine spoke to best
I
about.
already got the programming done, they just come and install it. So-
Oh, okay, see, now I thought the board had to decide on this, and you just decided.
Well, it's programmed in there,
You're
but,
talking about it.
I mean, yeah, so it's already programmed,
So,
program's done.
so those cards kind of conflict through the,
Now we can do it, we can do it either out.
Well, because they just go to the booth attendant anyway.
yeah, so where's the programming involved?
For the ticket, for the attendant to be able to take it off.
But,
So they put their ticket in, if it's a 1 hour free out or a 2 hour free out, they hit their button, it takes it off and they pay their ticket.
Okay, so we just gotta reprint coupon.
That says
yeah,
both
just a lot
garages.
of it.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, we can do this and we should get the word out. The merchants don't seem to use them a lot, but we should all kind of puff that up.
How much do they cost to the merchants? How much do they cost
50
them?
cents each.
And are you sure they're 100% aware? Because a couple of them asked me about parking, and they acted like they didn't know anything about it.
We have flyers out, TDA has brought them out to everybody. The whole thing is that they just, they don't come in.
TDA's done a very nice flyer on it, and they
Mhm.
put it on their emails and stuff, but
Some of them use it and they love it and they love the option of it and, customers seem to like, but can't force somebody to do that.
on the other hand, too, if they're able to give it to their customers, and customers is glad to receive it, but forgets to use it, the goodwill is still there. In other words, they still are looking good to their customers. And
The customer has to know to park there before he went to the store, though. I mean, they wouldn't do any good. They parked on the street, got a coupon, and the car is on the street.
No, so what we did was we actually made Slam and Brew. We made them a little sign, just laminated the sign and said that you can park here. We offer to our customers, 2 hour free parking at the Liberty Commons garage.
Yeah. Those are,
And again, we can change that for anybody,
yeah. Well, it's good to be able to report back to that other group, the ad hoc TDA committee, that is one thing we have some progress on. Okay. CCRC grant update. In your board package, folks, you would have seen a letter that we sent to Joanne Povia, who was chair of CCRC. Kind of restating that we are still very frustrated with their denying all of our expenditures relative to shoring up the garage as was required by the Mercer County Construction Board. It just dumbfounds me, given that they only even have that money, which is specified for use as part of the demolition project. And yet, because we didn't specify that in the grant, because we didn't know about it, they still have decided, tough, you're on your own. But I kind of, as you can see, I restated that whole scenario for the record in that letter. We are going to have to return $65,000 to them. For now, that work has got to stop because we have to apply for a new grant and start all over again. And frankly, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get reimbursed for the work that was done. It's a real puzzle. I don't think there's anybody on that board that understands how construction deals work. When you have a contingency in a budget, it's for unforeseen circumstances. These were unforeseen circumstances, and yet they disallowed everything. There was some mention that we could appeal, but there was no process offered in terms of appeal. And so we decided that we better just end this grant and get another one from what is really our money. But that's just my frustration coming up. So we're not going to do an appeal process. I mean, their denials gave us no specifics at all. They just denied. They didn't say why, what they objected to. They just said, no, we're not paying those expenses. So we're just, we'd already asked them to reconsider once and they denied it again. So we're not going to fight. We're not going to do an appeal. We're just going to give them their $65,000 back and start again. I have talked to a couple of the community members on that board and asked them to try to be advocates for us. That's Willard Standback and Jeff Laurenti. I wish they would be noisy community people. And, we're all trying to get to the same end, which is to get the garage demolished. And this is just, we're right now standing still because of that. So we'll continue as needed. With that, in the same vein as the Broaden Front Garage update, you started talking a little bit earlier about, continuing to solicit bids for that work. We can, I think, do that, though I don't think we can award any bids. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So yes, where we are and what I'm recommending are the next steps. Now that the building has been stabilized, we can safely bring folks in there to do the testing and inspection for hazardous materials. They'd be looking at asbestos and lead. We know that there's hydraulic oil in the elevator tanks and the pump system. That still needs to be remediated as well. So the testing and inspection, the last price I received is old, needs to be updated. That was $15,000 for the lab cost and the on-site sampling. So that cost is something we still are having to incur and move ahead with. The other part of that would be to engage the THA consulting folks to develop a bid package for the demolition. The information that the testing and hazardous material inspections would reveal would be put in that bid package. And the other consultant we would need to likely speak with is a vibration monitoring consultant, for the cost and the specifications for the bid package for the monitoring of that work while the demolition's ongoing. So those are the next steps. Based on the budget I had put together previously, we had about $130,000. That's in addition to the costs that have already been incurred for the stabilization. I think those costs are still valid. That included a 20% contingency at that point. So we were at 130 plus 20% contingency brought us to 156,000. So that's what I would look at as the next step in the process and the costs associated. It's as not 150 in one cost. We would have various consultants that would involve that cost, but we need to position the TPA in order to be able to go to bids once the funding is available. And these steps would put us in that position.
Yeah. I asked Lou to come up with a list of every possible task that we can foresee and that might come out of doing testings and whatever. And we'll try to, in the next go round of applying for another grant of our money, you know, kind of give such a list that they can't deny things. With broad enough contingencies that they can't kind of say that wasn't in your document somehow. So, yeah, if you could, you know, kind of not, you know, yeah, if you could come up with that list, then we can all kind of review it, maybe have THA consulting review it as well, and maybe try to make sure this doesn't happen again, that they can't kind of arbitrarily sort of just say that's not permitted.
I will do that. I am working on that with THA. The largest area of unknown involves the environmental, you know, cleanup costs potentially. I will try and provide some educated guesses with some narrative as to, you know, the assumptions that are associated with those figures. Most of the other costs, the elevators, safe off, we have some budget numbers I'm pretty comfortable with, but we do need to go back to all the vendors and consultants and get final updated numbers that are current, you know, that we can work with for our budget. So, so that's what I'm suggesting. And any questions? Otherwise, you know, I will, as soon as I get those numbers, I'll present those and I will provide an updated recap and for the budget associated with the demolition of the structure.
Right, yeah, well, that was another item, which is to get the overall estimates once all the pre-demolition work is done, that we're stymied. So I guess maybe when you talk about the environmental, will it make sense to be more detailed? You know, especially PCBs, everything we can think of?
Well, yes, and that's what I will try to do. I could speak to this part of the environmental that I know personally because I assisted TPA in obtaining it. But we have what's known as a no further action letter from the DEP with regard to the oil tank that was existing, you know, when the TPA acquired the property. The oil tank was abandoned in place and has now been removed. The soil's been remediated and the DEP through your LSRP, who's USA Environmental, has indicated all the steps to clean up the property have been completed, and they've accepted that by issuance of the no further action letter. So we currently have that. It's also known as a remedial action outcome, and RAO is the current state-of-the-art name for that document. So we do know that's been cleaned. To my knowledge, the other area of concern currently that we know of would be the hydraulic oil relative to the two elevators. The other thing that I'm proposing and have budgeted for is a phase 1 environmental assessment. And basically that's a historic look at the uses of the property, which would identify any other potential environmental concerns that a buyer or an owner might be concerned with in acquiring the property. So that's what we're hoping, that's where I'm trying to position us, where you could turn the property over to a redeveloper and they would have all the information to complete their due diligence and move it forward.
Yeah. And all the stuff that kind of leads up to where you can do the demolition.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's make a laundry list of items we can think of so that or we could possibly anticipate so that we can get access to these funds.
We'll do that. Yes.
Yeah. The activation grant. So we have an RFEI, pretty much, you know, it's draft, but it's pretty much done. So I'm going to circulate that and ask people to read through it for suggestions, typos, whatever you see. The website that I had mentioned, we had engaged Enforce Communications. That's the website company, you know, Leon Rainbow works with, and they've done a lot of stuff for local businesses, are doing that sales oriented spot where developers can really get a lot of information about Trenton that we find nobody else has done. So that's kind of, you know, delayed this process. Nobody the city's website doesn't really lend itself to that. Greater Trenton's website has almost nothing on it, so we really need to fill that big gap so that developers can get good information about the potential of downtown, the potential of the city, the infrastructure that's available, et cetera, and hopefully, decide, hey, yeah, this is a real attractive spot. So, look for that RFI, take a look, and, make any suggestions, but the document, which we have purposely kept very short so that developers take their time and really look at it, but don't kind of get put off because it looks like some big bureaucratic headachy document. We've kept it kind of lean. And hopefully then they'll take the next step of pursuing what we'll have put up on the website. Anybody got questions about that? All of the broad and front stuff. Scott, can you talk about the Caldwell University data project?
Sure, with the little bit I know now. Didn't you guys meet recently without me? Because I got stuck someplace?
That's right. You were
Yeah,
popping in.
but up to this point, I think they have data. There was a little issue with the data. The system either broke down in sending us the monthly files, but they have everything for up to March. I think they're up to date now. They have everything January, they have February and March of this year. So they're up to date. Now, as far as the meeting went, I guess you could speak on that because I wasn't there, but they're up to date in terms of data.
Well, so when Scott says he's talking about our consultant, Best & Company, who's generating the data from our activity to provide to the Caldwell University project people. As they end a semester, actually, to do kind of projections for us and analysis of post-COVID activity. And, which garages are being used, when are the peak times, what days of the week. Data that we had never really collected in the past, but now very much feel we need to have. So they've got a really good business analytics program at Caldwell, and they've been very excited to have this real world practical project for their students to work on. And thank God we got Scott, who actually knows the lingo and can talk to these folks and kind of be the bridge between Best and Associates and the Caldwell folks. So that's been good. Somewhat in the same vein, Comcast Smart Solutions is very interested in working with us to upgrade our technology, and with technology that they've been using with parking customers really all over the country, from what they tell us. And where that stands now is they're willing to do a kind of a test project in one of our decks and one of our garages, and we have decided that this one that we're sitting in here, the one that runs between Broad and Warren, which has the oldest technology, is probably the best location to do this. Also because we have both old technology, but we have the Mercer County Community College students that use the tokens, and there's enough layers of stuff here that we think that's a good place to start. There was some talk about actually doing cameras and license plate recognition in all the decks, which they thought could have been done readily and quickly in all the locations, but they sort of backed off of that for now. We want to go through this sort of test project and see what that means for us. And just, for, Tesca or Lindy was not on the board at the time. We knew we needed to upgrade our technology, and we were working with Mike Siselko from Nexus at the time, who goes to all the conferences and the trade shows and the like. And when he came back with numbers, we just fell off our chairs and said, wow, we can't possibly afford that. But as everything has become very cloud focused, it changes the calculation a lot. And we think collecting data on the cloud and making our arms kind of just very dumb mechanical implements, so there's not data being collected on site, might make the difference and might make it possible for us to actually go in that direction and get a lot of technology upgrades. And, now more than ever, we kind of want to understand what our usage looks like. What days are the heaviest, what hours are the heaviest, just what the patterns are for our usage. And hopefully we can start to look towards selling off-peak times as apartments maybe come online downtown. We need the old taxation building, 28 West State Street, the Skyber building, etc. And maybe the hotel will be coming back online. So that's kind of, we're still in an exploratory stage, and we'll just keep updating you as they move forward. Scott, you were on that call, right? Yeah, we'll see. Oh, maybe not. He's muted. Okay. And Mike Ash will be brought into that as we move forward, in terms of what their relationship obligations are. We do have an HR consultant engagement discussion to be had. That really should be in an executive session, because Lindy did get some proposals. So I think we'll jump to old business public comments and then put the executive session at the end, just so that folks that aren't part of the executive, part of the board, don't have to hang in. With that, so Lou, is there anything else facility-wise that you want to report on?
Basically, we discussed the facility report items that I had incorporated into the report. If there's any questions, happy to address any of the commissioners' questions.
If folks got a chance to read Lou's report that was circulated. There's no.
I highlighted the priority of broad in front and the design for the demo and the preliminary tasks we need to accomplish. And then I also opine a little bit about the Lafayette situation that I outlined earlier.
Nothing to be voted on, though, no contact.
Not really, aside from, I don't have numbers to present, but I will do that in the upcoming days for, the consultants for the broad in front demolition package for the bid.
All right, and you would have also gotten in the package that has everything for the CCRC. Yeah, there was a lot of the CCRC back information, the correspondence in the Mercer County Construction Board of Appeals and the various correspondence going back and forth. You can hold that in for your reference. We do have a member of the public here. So now is your time. Butch, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a series of questions regarding the front and broad garage, if I may. And just so you know, the September, November 23 minutes on the website, nor was the March. So some of these questions might have been answered in them. So I apologize if that's the case.
Wait a minute. So Patrice has got a question.
Okay, what happened? Which ones are not on there? You said?
September and November of 23, and then obviously March because they weren't approved. So there might be some.
One of those might have been, the November is with the December. We combined the two meetings.
Okay.
Okay,
right.
So I'll look into September though.
Okay. All right, so the for the garage, was a structural assessment ever done on that since it has
We've done several over the years.
no
Yeah.
since the imminent hazard violation that the city issued in March of last year was a structural report done, assessment.
Yeah, can you speak to that one?
Yes, there was a formal report in response to the imminent hazard notice, and then ongoing monthly reports since. The engineers are visiting monthly and providing an assessment each month.
So for the structural assessment, who has a copy of that report?
That's submitted to the owner. It's also submitted to the Construction Board of Appeals and or the construction official in Trenton, I think. Is it Mr.
Hank Guarnieri.
Guarnieri? Yes, I believe he's getting a copy.
All right, so if I do an Oprah request to the parking authority, you guys will be able to.
Yes.
All right, and then as far as those monthly inspections, who's conducting those?
It's the same firm that did the initial, and that is THA Consulting. They're out of Bluebell, Pennsylvania. They specialize in pre-engineered parking structures.
So that's the company that the TPA has on
There
their
are-
payroll.
They are our retained professionals. We do annual requests for qualifications. And we review those and rank them and select one. THA has been our consultant for a number of years now. So they are very familiar with our facilities, but they are probably one of the most notable parking facility experts on the East Coast.
Okay. In the December meeting, there was a discussion about establishing a fail zone around the garage. Was that ever done?
Yes, that was in response to the imminent hazard and then the Construction Board of Appeals ruling. And that's what that monthly assessment, part of what the monthly assessment addresses on a monthly basis is that fall zone area.
But it said one was going to be established and set up around the building, and I'm just curious if one has. If that's just what this temporary fence is behind me, is that the fail zone, and that's it?
To my knowledge.
Yes, it's the fail zone and within where they put the shoring.
Okay. All right. And then as far as this fence is concerned, this is just temporary fencing, and as you're well aware, it gets moved frequently. I see you put a post in over here on the one side of the garage and attached the temporary fence to it. So that's.
Starts up. You were here. Very sad.
The littlest giant you'll ever see.
Are you going to put permanent fence here, or are you going to continue with just this temporary fencing, which gets moved frequently?
The intention is with the request for expressions of interest that will go out broadly to the development community is to identify developers that are interested in redeveloping the site. So this is temporary in anticipation of a developer stepping in either as a buyer, as a joint venture partner, as a public-private partnership deal structure will be determined. And then part of the redevelopment would be the demolition. So we wouldn't put up permanent fencing because we don't know what's going to get built there, what it would look like, where fencing would be appropriate until we have a plan.
So is this area safe for people to sit in and be under?
Well, they're not supposed to be under it. That's the idea of.
Understood. I agree. And that's why I'm saying I've documented it over the year or so that people have gotten in there because of the temporary fencing. And the skateboarders, the locals, people are sleeping under it. So I would think liability wise, you would want to make sure that this was secure with some sort of permanent fencing so no one can get in there in case something does happen.
I think I've said too much disdain on social media. It's a bit of a cat and mouse game, and Phil, who's here with us, and his team try to stay on top of that. We brought in the DAWGS, what's that? Doors and Window Guard Company, which is a rental product that we use. That is their whole business model is securing vacant buildings, and they're a pretty big company. So they've been advising us where and how to secure it.
And we have an additional 60 that are being installed in the whole back of the building.
So I mean, that's doesn't come cheap, but we have been doing our best in using experts. But putting up permanent anything, would entail a huge process with permits, et cetera, and design that seems, I'm not sure where you're coming from with that, but this is trying to secure the building and cat and mouse wise trying to stay ahead of it. But we're not going to build anything permanent. Rather,
where I'm coming from is if this area behind me is a hazard to be in for humans to be in because of a potential collapse, I would think you would try to make it so no one can get in there.
Well, that's what they just did. They just put that pole.
Phil, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, sir. So, if you look behind you where you're standing, you're sitting at the intersection of Broad and Front Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, if you look to the side of you, you see that there's been a post installed with two padlocks from them being able to move the fence to be able to get in there. The other side is already locked. So it
All right.
shouldn't be,
All right, we're just going back and forth. I get it. Thank you. And with the garages, I've spoken to numerous people throughout, and there's a concern just for safety, general safety in the garages. And I think that's
And
a
are you saying
legitimate.
garages plural? All the garages?
Yeah, all the garages. Would there be a consideration by the parking authority to have some sort of mobile security patrol going in and out of the garages throughout the day?
Listen, I
We
think,
actually have the police sometimes go through there.
well, I think you can talk to people and everybody's afraid. I mean, I just think I don't know that there's any particular methodology to you saying you talk to people, they don't feel safe, and therefore we should. I mean, we haven't had incidences, we haven't had, you can't plan for everything, and I'll be honest with you, financially, we are still struggling from COVID. Our funds are not back. We watch every penny. We make sure that we can hit our, pay our bonds, but we can't just try to be the safest place in the world and spend money accordingly. We do, we
Well, what we
respond.
also did was we worked with TDA a little bit too, because they're here in the same office with us. So TDA has a program, and everybody's well aware, with the police. So that is one of the things that they started implementing, is when the police are here, we gave them an access card so they can do a tours, here and there through the garages.
I've checked those reports. I haven't seen any tours, but okay. And then
That's what we were told, so.
what about cameras for the garages? Is that too expensive too?
No, just the light.
Well, it comes up periodically. We're not in a position to monitor them. Michael, can I ask you, was there some insight on that?
It's a complicated issue, and I'm not going to address it right now. But if there are cameras installed, there is a responsibility and an expectation that the camera footage will be monitored, and that's not something the parking authority has entertained in the past.
Can you cite where that's at? I've never heard that at all. I'm curious if that's case law. Is that something? Where's that come from?
This is from, yeah. It's not law. It's like people, if something did happen and somebody decided they wanted to sue because, you had a camera, you should have stopped that, or whatever, my car got broken into. It's happened. But we can't,
Insurance.
I'm just asking, is this case law? I mean, is there somewhere where this happened where someone was sued because they weren't monitoring the cameras? And if that's the case, I'd like to see that court case, or again, just
I gotta
assumption.
tell you, we're not gonna engage our attorney to answer that. It's just all more expense. What you're suggesting is that we be the most secure, the most high tech, the most whatever, and we're just not in a position to do whatever the
By having
we could do.
Post or a mobile security unit going from garage and
Already
having.
discussed that with TDA.
All right, so we're collaborating with a local other downtown entity, gave them the access they need and had those discussions. But to kind of duplicate that, when we haven't had incidences or reasons, I mean, the reality is we're active during the day. It's unfortunate that we don't have a lot of evening and weekend activity, but we don't. And I think the likelihood of big problems happening during the day is not really strong. So going into looking for ways to spend money to get more secure than secure, when there's not been reason other than you saying you talk to people and they're, that we can't do decision making based on a member of the public telling us he talked to some people who said, why don't we do such and such? That's
I
really.
guess state hiring all security for their state buildings during the day is unessential. All right. And then finally, why is it that the only time something happens with this garage, as far as maintenance, is when Scott Miller or I put it on Facebook? Is there not?
I object to that. I know, this
that's
is a
not-
topic that is never ending for us. You've come to one meeting. And so you decided that all our discussions today were based on you and Scott Miller. That is hardly the case. This is ongoing. This is ongoing. It's been ongoing for years.
What
And
is?
Nothing is simple. As much as, you guys, the activists on the street assume we're not doing anything. This has been ongoing. Structure reports, removing tanks, fighting to get money, then getting turned down by another entity that has no, it just decided we weren't doing what they thought we should be doing.
We've been doing.
We've been securing it. We put the dog stuff up there. And truthfully, this has been a pretty lengthy public session. So I don't really want to drag it out for the sake of whatever. I object to what you're saying. I don't think it to be the case.
All right. Well, you invited at the meeting, so I came to the meeting.
No, and I think you should come to all of them, and if others did, they would understand that these are ongoing. We are trying to push forward with technology, with redeveloping that site, and it's getting the asset activation grant was something that we pursued so that we can do that. I mean, we're taking advantage of what opportunities are out there with very strong financial constrictions on us.
Well,
and you can take credit all you want, Butch, out in the world. Feel free. We probably aren't going to agree with you on it.
I missed what you said. All right. But anyway,
I have comment.
Yes, Evangeline.
Yes, so to the point of this matter.
We should say, though, I think that you're not a member of the public, so I guess we have closed the public session. Is everybody okay with that? We did have a public person talk. He's more than 5 minutes or so anyway, so the public session is now closed. Evangeline, go. Yeah.
Okay, so in a related matter, and I'll tie this in when I receive an answer that I'm going to the question that I want to ask now. Patrice, you did send out just prior to this meeting something regarding the police office sketch, the one that used to be the police office within the building.
Oh, yes.
What was the purpose of that?
I'm sorry, I added that, and as I was going down the working list, I'd forgotten that I'd added that, but as you guys know, and we've talked about, there is some excess space in this building that we're in, where this police internal affairs used to be, is a small suite that enters from Warren Street. We have an empty storefront, and there's some empty second floor, not great, but nevertheless office space. And as we look for more income opportunities, we've talked about leasing that space. As it turned out, with my other hat on, there was a client looking for space that I knew this would work. So I switched hats and said, I think the parking authority has something for you. We brought them over, they did like it. And so I wanted to share with you, Patrice had worked with to get the dimensions. And we want to put that in front of this prospect. They're not a nonprofit, but they do employment for senior citizens. They're an employment agency. They work with people at like Cathedral Square, the senior project on Warren. And I think just generally in this area, they have another office in town, but for various reasons that we don't need to go into, it's not satisfactory. So they're in the market looking. And I think that would be just additional income for us that would be helpful.
Okay, so if I may, I would like to continue, having
Sure.
referenced that briefly. So you have just articulated why that was circulated to people. Basically, we're looking for income or management of our space. Isn't there some other space that was being used for storage by some people that wanted some free storage? Artsy, music, a bunch of people, some of that space, right?
It's a space. The Capitol Philharmonic found that there had been files left in 28 West State Street over a decade ago that were theirs. And they are temporarily stored there in this space that we're talking
So
about.
the point I'm making about these space references is this here. In the past, we have deliberated, and I believe there was a vote by the sustaining majority to bring on the services of some real estate broker. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Right. I think that is a use that you can put that person to. And I guess in that vein, I just wanted to ask what has been the remuneration coming from such a venture, meaning bringing such a person up onto the TPA in light of our needs for income and sustainability. So in using,
Okay,
in
so,
terms of what he can do for the spaces that we have.
okay, so, we did do an RFQ, we got one response. And, to a proposal that was Roland Pot. We actually didn't get to the point of signing an agreement with him and having him begin to market the space when this opportunity came up. Coincidentally, and perhaps confidentially, the tenant is now his tenant. So when they came to me and said they were looking, I didn't want to call him and tell him he may be losing a tenant, and they want to move over here. And this is just a small town that we live in, that's the way it goes, but I think if we can make a deal with them, they will give him notice and then he'll know, but I think there's a lot of reasons why this would work better for them.
Am I understanding correctly? You're saying that the real estate broker venture never came to being because it was just a one response to an RFQ, and you never got to contracting with him?
I think we don't have a lot of commercial brokers in town, so I think we were satisfied with that, but just in the crunch of dealing with CCRC and the asset activation grant and all the other stuff, it wasn't a priority, so we didn't move forward on it. We could do that at any
very
time.
quickly. Yeah, very quickly regarding RFQs, and I will go back to the one for the real estate broker and our front and broad garage issue to tie it in. Wasn't there also an outstanding RFQ for nonprofit accounting solutions?
That RFQ got pulled back because inadvertently, when it got advertised, it included a not to exceed, meaning that there was language in that there was a limit on how high a monthly retainer or a monthly fee could be. And we had one potential respondent saying what gives, and frankly, there should not have been that language in the RFQ. So we pulled it back. And it
So
needs to be it needs to be
be that as it may, the fact of the matter remains that is an outstanding staff, and the current person serving in that capacity is now without a contract, and it's been over a year, right? Okay, let's get back to the broad and front situation. The reason I mentioned the real estate broker in reference to that broad and front property is perhaps that is a situation that we can bring a real estate, perhaps a commercial broker into play here in terms of seriously considering the marketing and or the selling of this problematic structure and facility for the authority, okay? Only because, as the gentleman, Mr. Osterman, was talking about, from a risk management point of view, realistically speaking, I presume, it is my considered opinion that we are chasing tails with this particular property. Best case scenario, we get the 1.5 million from the state. Best case scenario, you get your reactivation, whatever grant you're talking about. All of that added up. In addition to our collective assets, we are not in a position to do any redevelopment on that property, not sustainably so as the owners of that property. And as I had suggested in the past meetings, and I'm going to reiterate now for the record, from a risk management point of view, I seriously would propose that we appeal to the attorney, Mr. Ash, to find ways to find middle ground with the city, the county, and the state regarding this particular facility to take care of the issues of risk management that has been very adequately raised by Mr. Osterman this evening, okay? When I brought that issue up in the past meetings, I think the response was, we can't put the attorney to work to do some research in that regard. I really honestly do not know what else there is to do because as he mentioned, we're not as you said, nobody plans for disasters or any accidents or whatever. But as it stands right now, anything happens in that place over there, risk management wise, all these characters that I have mentioned come into play, vis-a-vis the TPA, the city, the county, the state. Okay, and perhaps more onerously on the TPA. So I would venture to suggest, and emphatically so, get that real estate broker that you voted for, engage him or her in serious talks about selling this property profitably for the authority. In the absence of that happening, put the attorney to work, let him research legal ways to ameliorate the onus of risk burden to the TPA in this case, because it's only a matter of time. It's waiting to happen. That's my concerted opinion about that. So for the record, best case scenario, we get all the funds, we're chasing tails, discussing here back and forth. We still are not in a position to do anything tangibly and sustainably for the authority. I think we cut our losses and move on, sell that property to who has the money to buy it, and or negotiate a risk management burden share with all the stakeholders, the city, the county, and the state. It was a bad deal. I understand historically this was a city property. How it came to be the TPA property, I do not know. So those of you who are here and know of the history perhaps more than I do, I say this stinks like a very bad risk management situation. It needs to be attended to forthwith. Stop chasing tails and stop lollygagging. We're not in a position to do anything tangibly about that.
Well, I would respond by saying that for many months now, you should be aware that we accepted a grant from the NJEDA to move in a specific direction. And that is to do a request for expressions of interest to the development community, which is more typically the way public entities do solicitation for buyers, partners, joint venture partners, public-private partnerships, et cetera. And that is about to be issued within weeks. So, I think that because that was all passed by votes of this board to move in that direction, there's no particular reason to change direction at this moment. We'll proceed to find a developer partner, a developer buyer through that process. You'll see that document, but as I said, there's a draft about to be circulated.
I would like to make one final comment to the point about what's going on funny here and there, whether it's the grant, whether it's the money from the EDA, whatever. All I'm saying is, bottom line, when you look at us as an authority, before you can make any sustained move in the right direction, you have to be functioning right. I dare say we are not functioning right. We do not have an active cash management process in place. I have mentioned this in the past. You need to revisit that with your accountants, budget auditors, whatever. I mentioned a consultant in that regard. It's not just what it sounds like to the ear. It's more than that. We don't have that in place. We don't have the requisite structure in place to run this authority. Even within the board, right now we are functioning more than half a month, or half a year rather, more than half a year without restructuring. Okay, reorganization, restructuring, and you can't keep going haphazardly with the blind leading the blind. I'm not saying that you are blind, Anna, or anybody else on this board is blind, but the point I'm making is we don't have the structure in place to run this authority right. Neither do we have that within the board. Okay, so we need some serious introspection to get things right before we can try to hassle any other person outside in terms of assisting us to do things right. I say this in the very best interest of the authority, in the very best interest of everybody concerned here who is a board member, in the very best interest of public members, for the greater good of the community at large. And we need a serious introspection of our financial needs analysis and restructuring for the authority before we can even try to convince others to assist us with redevelopment process, such as with the Broad and Front facility. Okay.
Let me put that on the
Having
record.
said that,
I will respond on the record that our auditors do not agree with you that there's an issue with our cash management. Our audits are generally quite clean, and there's not a concern along the lines that you consistently raise. So we don't exactly know what you mean by that, but the auditors, a neutral, separate party, doesn't agree with you. As far as our reorganization, we've said this at several meetings that you've been at, that the reorg should happen in line with our fiscal year, which is July 1. And so that is the schedule that we intend to be on for reorganization and reloading of executive
with
committee.
all the financial records that we've been voting on, okay, can anybody answer the simple question about what our income to debt ratio is as an assessment of our health financially and assessment of our ability to sustain our project?
You have all of the reports and the audits available to you. Those are always provided. And I cannot, off the top of my head, nor could our auditor probably off the top of your head, give you that number.
That question cannot be answered.
And if you have specific questions, we can arrange for you to talk to the auditors. But I'm not sure if you want to submit specific questions, that somebody could review the financials. But
the submission of specific questions and the request of substantiating documents, isn't that the reason behind the HR issue that you are looking to go to executive meeting about?
No, it's not.
No, it's really not.
Can somebody tell me what the executive meeting for the HR is all about on the record before we go? Because I have to go.
We wouldn't have the executive meeting during the public meeting. We will go into the executive committee meeting and we will go into it with it to discuss.
What is it? Could you shed a little bit of light on what that's about?
All right,
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yes.
I'm trying to determine, because I was sort of in agreement with Commissioner Gorgie, and I wanted to throw something in it, but we started diverting off to a totally different thing where we're just taking personal opinions on things. But what is the discussion we're having? Because it sounds like it's just a grievance session to talk about everything I don't like about the parking authority. And I don't know where we're going. So what is this discussion on?
So I think that Evangeline made her points, and I think that we do have an executive session. And in the interest of time,
Madam Chair, if I may, but I wanted to follow up on something she started with. It got drowned out, but I want to go back to the whole thing of the RFEI, and that's coming out shortly. It's been quite a long time. And I'm at a mindset. I just want this thing either resolved or off my back or something. Sell it. I don't care. I just want to see it down. Either we do it or somebody's doing it. But I need to put a time limit on this RFEI. We've been dragging it on for so long, and you said it's going to be out within a couple of weeks. We're going to have a review soon, but it's going to be out in a few weeks. Can we put a date on that?
There's a draft that I want to circulate, and if anybody has any comments or changes.
But I'm saying,
if I can, all right. So the issue has been. And it has been kind of my judgment that just to put this document out without developers being able to see a lot more of what the potential is and why they should consider what will be a multi-million-dollar project in our downtown. We need to kind of sell Trenton. And that information is not concisely available anywhere. So links to Trenton 250 plans. Links to the downtown master plan, demographic information, the information about the educated populace within a commute range for our downtown. Why would a company consider coming here? Why would a developer come here as well? There's no efficient way at present to get that information out. I mean, if our economic development entity is Greater Trenton. Their website has almost nothing on it. And frankly, I didn't anticipate this as we were trying to put this out. The RFEI, you can either do a really lengthy one that developers get turned off by, or we can do something that is efficient and attractive and appealing and sells interest and then allows people to dig further and get more information. Or we risk developers, and this happened with the Roebling Block 2 RFP, where developers just said, I'm not responding to this. It would cost me $5,000 to $10,000. I just want to be able to go on the record that I'm interested. So the RFEI, request for expressions of interest, is different than an RFP in that we can solicit developers and have them basically say, I'm interested and this is what I would do. This is my capacity to do it. It'll be about a 12-page document as opposed to, and it will be fairly straightforward for them to respond. And the idea is to put it out there in such a way that we get the most response possible, both because we've made it easy to respond and give us what we need, and also because we've made it easy for them to explore what Trenton has to offer us. Which,
but Madam Chair, my problem with that is because I agree with you, but by the fact that you said that that information is not even available, we're not in the business of building that information anyway. And if it hasn't been built before, what makes us think we can build it within the next week or two or a month? The RFEI needs to get out now.
We discussed this at the last board meeting. We did make an arrangement with Informed Communications, and they are working on that very item, that website. It's, you know, the last time I looked at it, pardon me? Well, that is a bit of what's holding us up some. I'm still feeding them information in terms of what has to be there, you know, what needs to be included.
But that's the point I'm making, is that it's all the things that I can't do this because I can't do that. I can't do this, but I like to do that. We just gotta put a foot down and say, this is what we got. This is the best we can do. Get this stuff out there versus waiting for the perfect solution to come along, which isn't going to happen anytime soon.
Well, believe me, this is not going to be perfect. I mean, in the real world, we have a really good economic development website. But the truth of the matter is that site selection professionals go to an economic development website before they even get in the car to go look at a site. They want to know what a community, what a city, what an area has to offer. And that doesn't exist anywhere. But it's pretty far along. It's not going to be a huge bells and whistles site, but you'll be able to get links to the various plans and reports and demographic, economic development type information that is available in one place. So it's a question of getting links.
I just want to put a pin in a date saying,
well,
by
all right,
2 weeks
listen,
today,
I said earlier, the draft is pretty much ready to go out, so you'll have that within a day or two. The website, let me talk to those guys and see if you can look at a preliminary. But I would think, you know, based on my back and forth with them within a week or so, we could look at a preliminary. And again, people can give inputs, catch typos, you know, add more links if you like. But we have a story to tell. But we do have to sell Trenton. We have to sell what we have to offer you.
All right, can I make a suggestion then? Can we just say something like, to the fact, like, look, whatever we can get in X number of weeks, that's it. We'll publish that and we're good with it. Because just waiting for the perfect thing to happen is never going to happen. Can we just say, I'll give you 2 weeks, the best you can do in 2 weeks, or 3, whatever that time is. I don't care what it is. Just put a date to it. Say, you got 4 weeks to give me the best you can give me, and we sending this thing out. Can we do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have a press release ready to go. We've got a quote from the mayor that he played with. So the idea is, you know, we got a final document and the website is launched or is just available. We're not going to do a big launch or anything. We're going to get it out to the real estate press who will run with this because they love these kind of stories. And we'll get a mass email out to the development community. And at that point, we have the consultant that was identified in the asset activation kind of queued up to vet and to assist us in vetting those. We also talked about having a broader committee that would assist in the reviews. Once it's vetted and we have hopefully a short list of strong developers that have the capacity, we can take a look at those and